Like when you are trying to hire me, don't look at my Twitter. Thanks. That would be great.
I think it would, but that's almost too idealistic because it's just like,
I think I could see in the movie that a lot of it was cut out. I don't know why. I can't imagine why.
you know why.
I do know why, but it sucks. It sucks because that's my original point here is that
Would you have maybe liked to take your mother's surname if you had the choice?
Yeah.
I'm also like,
Could have been something there. It changed the vibes.
I just feel like you're walking back into the same situation that you left, and there's no way that we can walk away from that movie and be like, she made the right decision.
Yeah, I downplay it a lot, but a lot of what I do is natural talent.
But again, I think that's what would have inspired it, right?
Yeah,
There's things you're naturally drawn to.
and we're back to our old and new listeners. Welcome to Who Would You Tell?
To my listeners, to my viewers, welcome back to another episode of Who Would You Tell? Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for joining me. My name is Kanye Masethli, and today we have a solo episode. And just like the first time, it's not because that was the plan. Going forward, Oaks, if I book an episode with you, and then you tell me within the last 10 minutes or last 20 minutes that you're not going to make it, you actually owe me the coin. And you owe me a lunch. There's got to be some kind of reimbursement package that we start to instill when this happens. Because as much as sharp topics are things I come up with, I don't actually want to do the solo podcast. I don't think I'm that interesting. In fact, I don't think anyone is truly that interesting. It's like, then I'm a preacher. Then I'm telling the world about how to do this, how to do that. It's like, no, it's a conversation. The moment we move away from the dialogue, the actual back and forth, we have lost what we are doing here. Regardless, Jabula Swana, you are on fraud watch, brother. I don't know how you're gonna fix this. The combination birthday part, you're in debt. See this, you the debt you are currently in. I don't know how you're gonna fix it. I'm curious. I want to see how you rectify this one. Balls in your court. For context, that is my older brother. He was meant to join me today. And he suggested this topic as well. At like the end of last year. So a bit of background there. This episode will still come out. We will still have the full version because I do believe that there is a lot that my older brother has to say on the topic, and I think that it's a topic that is just fundamentally really important to me. But I figured that because I'm doing it solo, there'd be value in sharing my perspective around this as well, and how we got here and why it is as important to me as it is. So for those who've been long-time listeners of Who Would You Tell, you'd know that I've interviewed a few people who've gone through various sobriety journeys, and you've gotten to know them like bit by bit over time. But I think since actually recording in the studio, I haven't really gotten back to that topic, where you actually can see the person and where they're at in life right now. The reason the topic's so personal for me is because I've seen addiction honestly ravage a lot of different families, friends, and even though I don't necessarily suffer from it myself, it is a very personal thing for me at all times. Those who are friends with me know that, unfortunately, I am a bit judgmental if I see you drinking a bit more than what I think is a normal amount. It is something I am very much aware of, more than I probably should be. But I guess it doesn't hurt you to have the awareness, to have the acceptance of what that danger actually looks like. And you see, even saying that, it feels like the start of an LO episode. If it's in a conversation, it doesn't feel the same. Anyway, for those who don't know, I think most people wouldn't know, I have a lot of friends, a lot of family friends who have gone through various degrees of sobriety journeys, and it's just made the concept of addiction a much more well-rounded thing for me. I think that we all have varying ideas of what addiction looks like, how that actually impacts your life. And when we talk about accountability, the thing that I feel is probably the most difficult is, I guess, reconciling where you're at in relation to a family member or a friend who is going through that journey. Honestly speaking, I think how I've felt when watching and when engaging with like family members and friends who have been going through their journeys has been like my worst self. I don't think I've seen and known myself to be judging someone for their actions more than when they're in that space. And with what I know about addiction now and the hold it has over people, there is ultimately the acceptance that has to come with it, at least in my opinion, that how accountable you hold those people in those circumstances really does have to be adjusted. And it's a very personal thing, right? I don't think that I can say to you there is this one golden standard that we should be trying to approach or, find where we say, this is how accountable people should be when they've gone through addiction journeys. Because if you're aware of things like the 12-step program and what recovery looks like, a big part of that journey for people who've gone through periods of addiction is their own accountability journey, where they actively try and make amends, where they try and reconcile old relationships, and I guess come forward and address how they wronged you. And for me, that's incredibly pertinent because I don't think that exists anywhere else. I think in day-to-day life, people may apologize to you, but it's never as direct, as overt as I feel that someone's sobriety journey actually is. And I guess having lived and seen it through so many different people, it's become something I'm very acutely aware of how difficult that period must actually be, because I think everyone else in life, you get to make regular mistakes and it's just fine. I feel like once you're branded as an addict, once you own the title and what comes with it, then once you've accepted what your vice is and the fact you have to step away from it, it's something that leaves you, right? I don't know any addicts who don't refer to themselves as, I'm a recovering addict. And the fact that that's the thing you say, or the phrase you say rather, throughout your life, I think speaks a lot towards the fact that it is this lifelong thing. If you are sober for 30 years, you'd still refer to yourself as a recovering addict. And I think people know this. There'll be movies, there'll be books. You'll have an experience, you have a level of exposure to it, one way or the other. But I think when it's as close to you, it does really change your perspective on how you try to engage the topic. I know a lot of people who have cut off friends, relatives, because of where they've been at in relation to their sobriety journey. And there have been times where that looks like the right decision, because you need to look out for yourself. You need to safeguard your own mental well-being. You need to look after yourself in the ways that you can. And ultimately, you can't save someone. You can try and help. You can recommend things to them. You can have conversations with them. But there does come a point where when someone's on a journey, you kind of have to let it play out once you've said and done certain things, because you can only enable them further. At least that's the advice I've gotten when speaking to people trying to manage that. And I don't necessarily think that someone in addiction or who has gone through that would feel exactly the same way if you asked them, which again, the value of the conversation part of it. But nevertheless, I think that this is something that more people need to be more mindful of. I think it's very easy to write people off. And as Karen and I were speaking about in the previous episode, people don't vanish, right? Like they don't. And as I get older and older, it dawns on me and I can appreciate a lot more that, you're not going to pick up 40 more friends, for the most part. At least not 40 new close friends. You're going to meet lots of new people. Lots of new people come in and out of your life. There's going to be constant change, right? The only guarantee is change. But as I watch especially my older friends, my older family members, the thing that always rings true is that you will need to try and reconcile with a lot more people than you think you would. And I think when it comes to addiction specifically, it's made that a lot clearer to me. I haven't necessarily told my brother this before, but if he had not reached out to me in a very specific way, as he was in year 2 of a sobriety journey, I don't necessarily know if we would be as close as we are again now. And the idea that genuinely scares me, because I had gotten to a point mentally where I was almost okay with us not being that close anymore. Like I was mentally at peace with, well, not at peace, but I wasn't going to do anything. I didn't feel like there was a further action I needed to take. And it was as simple as him saying, dude, I'd actually like to spend more time together. And with how close we had always been, like growing up, that meant more than you could imagine. Because it's like, yeah, finally. But even then, I almost had a bit of resentment because it's like, oh, now, why weren't you real before? And to have that kind of thought, to be that way about, someone who you have to acknowledge was going through something bigger than you. Like it's not about you. Like again, it's hard to not personalize those kinds of things, right? It's hard to engage with someone who has let you down and then not think, no, but this is then about me, even if you know the reason why they've let you down. I think the way I've learned this lesson most clearly is in relation to my dad, because even though he and I aren't necessarily that close, or at least not as close as I would have liked us to be at a different point in my life, I don't think any of that is down to, no, he cares less or he's not, certain things. It's just like, no, like this is just where you are. This is where I am. And, I spend a lot of time when trying to navigate that relationship specifically from a place of acknowledgement and acceptance around the fact that even though the circumstances aren't my ideal, it doesn't necessarily mean that the person is actively not meeting me where I'm at. It's about a thing of what we can both do at this moment in time, because I know that there's things that he would like me to do that I just won't do, And again, this is another part. This guy's a dog for me, Oaks. Honestly. I wish I'd practiced like a stand-up set. That would have been a much more ideal version of this episode in my head than a solo episode about addiction. He's a dog. He's actually a dog for me. Sorry for the sidetrack. I think more than anything, what I'd hope that this episode, when it finally does come out, does for you guys is maybe just widen your perspective in terms of what forgiveness, specifically in a familial context, actually looks like. And I guess just maybe broaden your understanding a bit more around what trying to navigate addiction in the people like in your life and like knowing how to help. I think the thing that frustrates me the most about when my brother was going through is that I didn't know how to help. I felt completely powerless. And again, it's not necessarily that I needed to help him get sober and do, if I do task A, then he's going to be, that's not how it works. That's not how I understand it. But I think just having like a rough guideline of like, okay, cool, this is what I can try and do to try and be as supportive as possible. And there was a point in time where I was like, I actually don't have answers. I don't know how to position myself. And it was easier at times to love him from a distance instead of how I know we would typically engage if I knew he was suffering from any other kind of thing. You get what I'm saying? Like there is an alienation that comes with a friend or relative that's battling addiction that I don't think you can encounter in any other way besides that specific arena. I am only 29, so I don't actually know how many different versions of the same thing might actually happen to people. You guys will say, if you leave some damn comments instead of, texting me, waiting to see me in person saying, great episode. Who is that for? You guys don't think the algorithm, you guys don't want this thing to boom for real. It's like you guys are treating my podcast like a best kept secret. Comment, like, share, give it a chance. Can you imagine if you've stopped me in person and said, dude, that was a great episode, I liked it so much, but you've never left a comment? We must be honest. Are you treating me like an underground rapper? I'm your favorite underground podcaster. You wanna hide that you think, imagine. And then, because then I could have had like a much wider Rolodex of contacts. Then I could have gotten somebody else as well, like a quick stand-in. And that's on you guys. In fact, if you're still watching this, I think that says a lot. And in fact, if you guys watch this and you don't comment, I think at that moment in time, we have to be honest about what it is we're doing here. I'm your side podcast. Come on, dog. Let's help this grow together. Oh, we're not a community. Is this not about Ohana? Come on, dogs. Please. But anyway, the main questions I think I had in mind for my brother, and I'm actually hoping he doesn't see all of these because he has most of the questions, not all of the questions. I think it kind of centers around the fact that the road back to recovery and how much accountability you're still exposed to when going through addiction is very much linked to the fact that your perception doesn't shift for a very, very long period of time. The fact that something as simple as your friend who's gone through a sobriety journey being late to something can make you think, I wonder if they might have. The suspicion isn't something that you're choosing to have. It's just where your mind goes, right? 'Cause that's what it reminds you of. But yeah, I think there's just a lot of value in people becoming more generally aware of, how we approach addiction, how we approach those conversations, and how we all try and, I guess, meet each other. It's not an easy thing at all to do. I know that I'm better served for having been able to walk as closely as I could. I'd say walk beside, but I think it was truly his journey in relation to what my brother's recovery looked like. And yeah, I think it's just something that impacts more people than we'd like to admit. I think there's lots of people who are in versions of quiet addiction, or it's almost like being managed. Like I'm sure everyone's aware of the term of like a functioning alcoholic. There's lots of different versions of these kind of things, and I think, in relation to what accountability looks like, there is no more direct version of it than what happens with addicts, and I think there's a lot of value in this topic, and I guess you guys got into kind of behind the scenes version of what this kind of Who Would You Tell episode was going to look like. I hope that when this episode does come out, that I have rescheduled the episode with my brother, and that you guys are very excited for when that full conversation comes your way. And aside from that, I think I've said my chops. I think you guys have a skeleton of what's to come for Who Would You Tell. Away from that, there might also be some big news to drop in the August episode that comes out. But let me get my life in order first, and then we'll go from there. Anyway, Oaks, thank you very much for listening to me ramble here in this very impromptu, unstructured episode. If you see Jabul Oswana out, tell him it's like, dog, where's the episode? Annoy him. Take photos. Send me the photos when you see him and say, you owe us an episode. He must know. He must know. He mustn't think that this is just in a vacuum. You're here, dog. You're live on cam. They know about you. You're busy watching McGregor fights. In 2026, look at your life. What decision making is that, bro? You don't think you're wrong. You don't think you're wrong, bro. Anyway, love you all very much. Thank you for watching this. If you have, leave some comments. Let's boost the page. Let's grow. Let's grow this thing. What if I said I want 500 subscribers by end of the month? Or 1,000 end of the year? You guys don't think I deserve? You don't think Oaks it wouldn't help Oaks if there are 1,000 people here, then the studio even gets more, then the guests get crazier? You guys don't think that that's good for you guys? You busy watching here in silence. You guys don't want your podcast that you guys watch to blow up more. Let's work together, Oaks. Please. Anyway, thanks for watching part 1.